Well, our next award goes to our Educator of the Year, Joe Kurth. It was indeed a pleasure, Joe, to do your table tonight, and the sponsor for his table is the TVCC Foundation. And making tonight's presentation is TVCC President Dr. Dana Young.
Well, I'd like to start off this evening by thanking the board members that are here with us tonight to help honor Joe. So thank you, Board Chair. I guess you had to be here, but thank you, Ken, Board Chair Ken Hart, board members Betty Carter and Dirk DeBoer and Lindsay Norman and Tori Ramirez. Thank you all for being here tonight to honor him. So I know that every time that we give Educator of the Year, I say that this is the best one, right? But tonight, I really mean that. Joe Kurth it's just especially true tonight for me to be able to honor him. I'm thrilled to have been asked to honor this outstanding faculty member. And as you can tell, just by saying his name, it makes me smile, okay? Because if you know Joe, you're probably smiling too right now. He is one of the happiest, most optimistic people that I know. And he just always has a smile. And I can't remember a time, even when we have been discussing a difficult academic issue, because sometimes at a college you have to discuss those issues, but I can't remember a time when Joe wasn't kind and civil and he's just really a nice guy. In addition to being happy, he's also a fantastic teacher, and his sunny disposition is showcased in his classes. If you were to talk to anyone who has ever taken a class from Joe, I believe that they will tell you, in addition to being an excellent instructor, he is a student advocate, a compassionate advisor, a teacher who is passionate about increasing real-world learning opportunities for his students. Joe earned a bachelor's degree in history from the College of Idaho and a master's degree in history from Boise State University. He began as a part-time instructor at TVCC in 2008 with a goal of becoming a full-time faculty member. And so we were able to hire him full-time in January of 2021. And while we often wait to the end of someone's career to give this honor, awarding this recognition in the middle of a career provides well-deserved recognition for Joe's accomplishments. And I hope that this award will inspire other educators to continue their great work as they see this recognition is not dependent just on your years of service, but instead on hard work, effort, and dedication that can be shown at any point in your career. As I shared earlier, Joe has taught at the college for well over a decade, and he has served as a social science served as an instructor in the social science department. He teaches political science, history, and ethnic studies classes. In addition to more than a full teaching load, Joe also serves as department chair and most recently volunteered, to serve as the faculty advisor for the Phi Theta Kappa PTK Honor Society, which is our highest level of students. This important role helps support outstanding college students through building leadership and scholarship skills. Joe volunteers time to read scholarship essays and mentor students monthly through the PTK meetings and activities. And while I may have encouraged him really nicely to take on this role, true to Joe's very persuasive abilities, he turned right around and asked me to help. And so, guess what I'm doing? You can't tell Joe no. He's very persuasive. And so I am helping him with the PTK group this year, and I'll tell you, it has been a great honor to serve by his side and to be able to promote those student programs and scholarships and opportunities. And he makes it so easy. I don't have to do much. I just show up. He uses big words. I look the words up in the dictionary so I can understand what he's talking about. And then you do that, don't you, Joe? Yes. I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with him, but he has a very large vocabulary, and it's actually quite interesting to see how he uses those words in context. But perhaps the most resounding endorsement of his teaching expertise and the impact that he has had on the lives of students is that he was selected as TVCC Teacher of the Year in 2021 before he reached tenure. So it is extremely unusual for a faculty member to be selected as Teacher of the Year before they're tenured, and Joe is the first one ever at Treasure Valley Community College to receive that honor. And so that's a big deal. In addition, Joe has also taken a leadership role in our most recent campaign, the Imagine, Invest, Inspire campaign, to raise funds for our new Nursing and Allied Health Professions Center. So Joe often goes around and speaks to local service groups and different community organizations, and he shares how important this building is and what a difference it's going to make in the community. And he just does that out of the goodness of his heart, and because he's a chucker and he believes in TVCC. And he is a TVCC graduate. He took dual credits while he was in high school, kind of like you, Ben, and your sisters. I know all of your sisters took them too. And he took all of those credits in high school and then went on and finished his degree at TVCC. Whenever Joe talks about his family, about his story, he always includes his family. So there's never a story that doesn't include family. And about their hard work and dedication. Both of his parents, who are here with us tonight, attended TVCC, and his father got a degree in agriculture, and that is credited with him ultimately purchasing Andrew Seed in Ontario. So that came full circle for the family. And a fun side note, have to mention Joe's sister, Laura, let's see if I can pronounce his last name, Laura Leboutier, close, who I'm sure you all know. Laura hosts one of the most popular garden shows, Garden Answers, on YouTube, with more than 1.64 million subscribers. And if you haven't checked her out, I suggest that you check her out because she has done some great things, and she has done a great job at the college. She designs and plants all of our fantastic flower pots and the planter boxes across our campus. So if you've not noticed them, well, I would be surprised if you didn't notice them, but take a chance to come by and see those beautiful, the beautiful work that has been done. The Kurth family also donates to TVCC scholarships and have donated to the new Nursing and Allied Health Professions Center. And again, Joe is he's always first to say, I'll go and speak. I'm happy to speak about my family's experience with the college, the importance of this new Nursing and Allied Health Center, and we're just so grateful to Joe and his entire family for their support and their generosity. In conclusion, I want you to know that I was so happy to nominate Joe and thrilled when he won this award. And I feel honored to work with you, Joe, and to call you my friend. Thank you for all you do for Treasure Valley Community College, for our students, and for our community. So please join me in introducing Educator of the Year, Joe Kurth.
An incredible validation of my instruction there, thank you. I'd like to thank Kathy Yasuda. Kathy, thank you for the beautiful table. Kathy, like President Young, has been a constant for me on campus, constantly supporting me in my endeavors. In and amongst her great achievements, she is always quick to recognize the achievements of others with that encouraging remark and with that guidance. So thank you, Kathy, for all of that. I'd like to thank John in the chamber for this incredible award. Thank you, John, and of course for the public speaking opportunity. We all like those. Anyway. Now I was thinking about who's going to be here tonight, and I trying to assess my audience, so to speak, and I thought I'm going to see a lot of familiar faces in this room, which means no fishing stories, right? Everybody's going to see right through my lies. A lot of you know me growing up as a little guy and in the Boy Scouts. I think I saw Clint Shock in here somewhere, and as a young student in the area, and in fact, to illustrate this point, I was on campus and thinking, we had a meeting, and I was walking between buildings, and I was walking with Cindy Fibert. I don't know if you know Cindy Fibert, she's incredible, but she knew me growing up in the area. In fact, we kind of lived close to each other, about halfway to Vail, and she says, well, you're really doing great here. But she goes, you remember that one time you rolled the family minivan out into a field off Morgan Avenue? And I thought, man, I just can't escape it, right? The beauty of a small community. I said, yeah, I remember that. In fact, it was a maroon Plymouth Voyager, and I had Pink Floyd cassette in there. I was listening to Comfortably Numb, so every time I hear that song, I think of rolling the family minivan. Anyway, I'd like to talk a little bit about education. Faculty colleague of mine, he came up to me and told me one time, and this has resonated with me for quite some time. He said, teaching is a great challenge. However, it's also a great joy. And I've asked that of myself, which of those is the bigger one? And I don't know that I have an answer to that, but I will tell you this. For those of you that know me for a while, you can verify this. In 2008, when I started teaching, I had a full head of hair. So I think the challenge piece might be up here. Anyway, when it comes to my students, I can't think of a more gratifying thing, and also, by the way, intimidating thing. When a student says, hey, later on, it could be the next term, or it could be 2 years down the road, and they're out there getting their bachelor's or into graduate school, and they say, hey, I remember that one time when you said in class. And that always kind of startles me a little bit, because sometimes you get caught up in all the hustle and bustle, the curriculum development and the assessment piece and the research, and then every now and again you get hit in the face with this idea that, people sometimes remember what you say. And I thought, well, when students say that, I'm like, what did I say? Did I say something dumb? Did I say something smart? Maybe wise, I don't know. Cicero, a Roman orator and statesman over 2,000 years ago, a great defender of the Roman Republic, would say that the wise are instructed by reason, the normal by experience, the simple by necessity, and the brutes by instinct. And, I think he was trying to make that sound smart. I think actually he was just arguing in court with somebody who didn't have as much experience as him. But my experience as an instructor has taught me a lot of things about what that means and about my students. And, I get students that come into college and sort of view it as this thing that they have to get past to start their career. And I've heard President Young, I've heard you say this, we really like to sort of show our students that the education process is really, they're already in their careers. They're in that R&D phase, and they're sort of triangulating themselves, right? They're learning what they like and what's important, and they're gaining that sort of disciplinary expertise. They're learning how to build bridges and examine soil and learning about the law and history. But in addition to that, they're socializing, right? They're networking and forming relationships that will last for their entire lives, and not just with their student peers, but also with support on campus, faculty and advising and administration and our board members. I always tell my students, in my history classes, you don't have to love what I love. But I do make the argument that we're all sort of walking manifestations of millions of experiences in our lives that really affect the way we view the world and the way we interpret conversation and what we say. In history, up in the biz, right, we actually refer to that as, my wife's going to cringe that I told her I might use this word. We call that prosopographical analysis. It comes from the Greek word prosopon, which can literally be translated as face. So it's the rendering of faces, right? It's a way to triangulate people and historical sub-elites and things like that. But I love to see students learn about themselves and learn how to succeed. One other thing about education that I would like to acknowledge before I finish up is when I'm teaching my history classes, these are survey classes, right? So I'm talking about macro events. I mean, we're covering the Renaissance, or we're looking at Benito Juarez and what he did in the 1860s, or we're looking at the dissolution of the Roman Republican infrastructure. But when you're looking at big things, and I would maybe even argue ourselves to a degree, right? But when you're doing that, it's easy to fall into that reductionist trap of trying to be snarky and say, well, human greed caused the American Revolution. Or taxes. Well, nobody likes taxes, right? To a degree. Anyway, what I try to do in these classes is I try to get my students to create environments within which things are capable of existing. Right? So let's say I'm teaching a History 201 class and we're talking about the American Revolution. I might ask my students, hey, what caused this? And somebody says taxes, and that's great. That was a bumper sticker at the time. Right? But then we start talking about the role of religion and the Great Awakening and all these other things. What you really have to do is you have to create environments that are hospitable to these events, which causes us or forces us to look at the data and maybe loosen our strangleholds on our hypotheses a little bit and let the data communicate. But I think the same way about education, and over the years at TVCC, I've come to learn that, I have my role in the class and what I do in the class. But there are literally hundreds of people over the last almost 16 years now who have made that opportunity available for me. People, the brave people who are Overwatch, right? The administrators and members of the community that are willing to take on the daunting but oh so honorable task of trying to create that environment hospitable to student success. And so in receiving this acknowledgement, and I'm just tickled to death by it, but I would like to acknowledge that I'm sort of one piece in that puzzle, right? That there are a lot of people that are working together that make this all happen in a very nuanced system. And I'm very lucky to have all that support around me. I'd like to end by thanking my family. My parents, Mike and Susan, my entire childhood, it was very deeply indoctrinated into me that success lie in education. And that education was the route, right? And by the way, I don't know that there's a single magic bullet. I mean, I think that there's lots of different types of education, and anthropologists might say, well, there's formal and informal modes of enculturation. But I think that through that, that was always instilled in me. And I was one of those lucky ones. I was able to pursue it and fulfill that discipline. I'd like to thank my sister Monica, my brother-in-law Nick, my sister Laura and her husband Aaron weren't able to make it tonight at the last minute, but they have never been short of an encouraging word for me. So I thank you for that. I'd like to thank my grandparents, Jerry and Kathy, who have never failed to encourage me, to ask me how things are going on campus, have been for years watching the evolution of my career and have been encouraging me from day one. I'd finally like to thank my wife, and I promise I wouldn't put you on the spot too much. Heather's been there from the very beginning, right, when I first started teaching in 2008, and I gotta tell you, she has been the most amazing soundboard for me. When I get home and perseverate and obsess, I would never do that, right? And communicate those great joys and every time I'm feeling down about something or struggling with something, trying to figure something out, or really excited about something, she always just patiently nods. Great job. Good job. You're doing great. Anyway, I couldn't have done it without you, Heather, and she's always been there at that critical moment for that support. So thank you again for this incredible work.